The Forge movie review. Disclaimer: if you don't want to know what's going to happen in the movie, don't watch this video. Okay. God. I thank God that I'm a part of a church that actually cares about my heart. I thank God that I'm a part of a church that actually cares about where the spirits of the people who are going to that church are going to go. I thank God that I'm a part of a church that goes above and beyond to get God's message out and to make it stick to our hearts. With that being said, I'm a part of a discipleship class that is going to take 16 weeks plus. And we have a GroupMe, which is like an app where you can text people in groups all at once. And anyways, we have been talking about this movie called The Forge that a lot of people from church have already went to go see. And so three of us who haven't saw it yet, well, two of us hadn't saw it yet. One of us had already saw it. We got together tonight and went to go and see The Forge. Let me just tell you, spoiler alert, you're going to cry multiple times. I don't care how deep you are in your walk with God. I don't care if you ain't even started your walk with God. You're going to cry because this movie is so relatable. It starts out with a 19-year-old boy being hellish, being reckless, not necessarily causing mayhem, but he spends all of his time on his video game and he is disrespectful to authority. He's living with his mom, but he doesn't really respect her too much. His dad left them years ago. And he's just really in a dark place, right? His mom keeps trying to get him to go to church, and he's like, Mom, I don't have to go to church to meet God. If God wants to see me, he can meet me where I'm at. That right there was a cry for help without him even realizing it. When you give your life to God, it does not start off with God ambushing you. You have to want him. You have to wholeheartedly want him. And when you say little things like that, he needs to meet me where I'm at, that's you inviting him, whether you realize it or not. So fast forward, I'm not going to really tell how everything happens, but this is the next thing that happens. That's a big shocker. He finally gets a job. The job that he gets, he doesn't even realize he's in a discipleship with his job. He's working at a warehouse. But the warehouse is so much bigger than just being a warehouse. You got to watch the movie to figure out all the other things that's going on in this warehouse, but it's a God thing. This boy not only comes to Christ, but he also heals his daddy issues, and he also assists with healing his mom with her abandonment issues from her husband leaving her. Um, he learns how to respect authority. He wholeheartedly gives his life to God. He joins this group called The Forge, where it's just men discipling each other, bringing each other closer to Christ. They meet up for dinner every 2 weeks and just talk about how their 2 weeks went and where God showed up. They read Bible scriptures to each other. And it's so amazing because I go to a church where we do things like this with each other. We have small groups. Our small groups meet either every week or every 2 weeks. And just the discipleship that comes with that was actually being shown on TV. And that's so amazing because so many churches don't actually disciple you. Yeah, they can have huge events and they can make you feel good for a moment, but what do you bring home? What resources do you have readily available? You know what I mean? And with discipleship, whoever is discipling you is readily available whenever you need to talk. It's so amazing. And then when you finally are strong enough in Christ, you can disciple other people while you're still being discipled. It's beautiful. This movie really just poured out everything that I already know about God, but it showed it in a movie. When I gave my life to God, I was on the ground being kicked by my children's father. I had just had a baby less than 8 weeks prior. and I was on the ground being kicked, and I was in my head talking to God, telling him, if you just get me out of this situation, I'm yours. I don't care what I gotta do, I'm yours. Get me out of this situation. Wound up getting my ribs broken, wound up moving out of town, going to a domestic violence shelter, crying in the bathtub every night, like, Lord, you saved my life, but what's next? Like, I am here. Use me however you need me. I would say this to God every single day. Use me however you need me. I just don't want to go back. God started sending people to help me. He started sending resources. He started sending therapeutic measures for me to get out of that slump I was in. Fast forward to 3 years later, I've written a book about my life. I've discipled so many people. I'm an evangelist now. I don't have a problem speaking openly about what God has done for me on social media because God did this for me for real, not for fake. I didn't have to hear it from somebody else. I witnessed my life make a whole 180 within months because of God. In this movie, it took about a year for this guy's life to completely change, but when he gave his life to God, it didn't take a year for him to start moving differently. It took a year for him to start seeing all the fruit, right? But he immediately changed everything about the way that he thought, the way that he maneuvered, the way that he handled situations. He immediately changed when he gave his life to God. He started going to his room talking to God. He stopped playing the video game. And he started to actually make sure that he spent time with God every single day. That's what you have to do when you're a disciple. You have to die to your flesh all day, 24 hours a day. That's why it's so hard to be a Christian. It's not hard because when you wholeheartedly want to do it, it's just second nature. But when you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, it's hard. It's hard to die to yourself when you want to live in your flesh. But that should not be your want when you give your life to God. This movie really shows you what it's like to be a true soldier for Christ. And I love it. This 19-year-old boy changed so many people's perspective, and it shows you the power of prayer too, because his mama was having prayer circles about him, and you saw God moving immediately. It's just beautiful. It's beautiful. That movie was so beautiful. If you have not saw The Forge, I highly recommend it. If you're not even a Christian, I still highly recommend that you watch The Forge. Everybody deserves to see how beautiful it is to follow Christ. God bless you. Have a good night.